It's dirty.
It's dirty, but we're going to talk about it today. It's going right.
It's going right.
What's up, guys?
It's going right, Ash.
Today we are going to give you 5 reasons why you should buy an NA Miata.
Or at least think about buying one.
Think about buying one.
You know, if it wasn't in your consideration, maybe put it in your consideration.
Yeah, totally.
And within the first thing on that list, we're going to talk about pricing. So, you know, if you look at like S13s, S14s, they are significantly more expensive than Miatas.
Yeah.
Both NA, MB, you know, kind of whatever.
Yeah.
By a lot. By like a very large margin. Like, you know, I paid $4 grand for this car. And if I was going to sell it, which I'm not, probably ask about 8 for it as it sits, because pricing within a year.
No, seriously.
That much.
It really has.
Yeah. So, but even then, it is still a car that, for getting into a Japanese rear-wheel drive car, is among the cheapest ones you can get into, even with
the what they call like the rear-wheel drive drift tax and all of that. You know, it's definitely,
even then it's still the cheapest thing you can basically get into.
Yeah, if you want to get a good rear-wheel drive car from Japan, and even if you want a Roadster, like you're really not going to find anything cheaper than an NA Miata. That I can think of.
Maybe a Beat NB.
Maybe
you know,
maybe a Beat NB, something like that.
You know,
yeah,
but
it's going to be a Miata in some way, shape, or form.
But yeah,
right now,
that is relevant to where we're at in this day and age. The
second reason is, I think this is a really big one. There is a ton of aftermarket support for these cars. Like it is insane. Like, and there's not a lot of companies or cars where you'll see like things down to like the gauges, where you can customize the gauges. You can get full customizable knobs on the interiors. They have front end conversions.
Even to go further with the interior, they sell full quilted leather panels for the door panels, for back here, for the floor mat, for everything. They
have every type of, like, you can literally almost replace a Miata with the amount of aftermarket support that they have for a Miata. Like, they have crazy awesome facelifts, taillight conversions.
You're talking about like the pit, the pit crew front end.
Yeah. It looks amazing. Like, what does it make it look? Kind of like a classic like Alpha.
Almost like a Lotus Elan, I feel like.
Which
is what it's based on.
Super cool. I like, that's something I would definitely consider doing if I had.
The only thing I don't like about it is it sets the headlights very low.
That's true.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Regardless, that's not really the point here. Point is there are a ton of
aftermarket support. You can really just go completely ham modifying a Miata, which is really cool. So that's a huge thing for me.
Because, you know, sometimes you get into a car and there's really not a lot of, like, Accords. There's not a lot of support for Accords. You have to get a bunch of Prelude stuff. And, you know.
Yeah, exactly right.
There's definitely a ton of aftermarket available for this thing.
Yeah.
The third reason, which I think is one of the main reasons everybody talks about with the Miata, is driving it. Handling with the car, even stock with old suspension, it handles great. Like, it honestly handles ridiculous.
They really do.
Yeah, I mean, you have the experience too, right? The other one, and they handle really well. And not only that, but they're versatile. So you can take one of these, you can use it for drifting, you can use it for time attack, you could use it for basic road racing.
You could off-road with these things.
Well, you know, they actually did that on Top Gear America. Rutledge had a Miata that he off-roaded and used as a truck.
Super awesome.
So they are very versatile when it comes to what you can do with a Miata. So definitely.
So the fourth reason, and this is something I can speak from experience on, because we did together own a 94 Miata back in the day. He sold it to me, I sold it back to him after I blew the motor.
Thanks for that.
But after that, I owned an S2000. I had an 04 AP2, and so I have a lot of real-world experience, applicable experience comparing like an NA Miata to an S2000.
Or realistically, I think about any Miata throughout any generation, just because of the kind of specifics between
totally
sizing and pricing.
So I mean, S2000 prices have skyrocketed. I sold my AP2 for way too little. I don't even want to tell you guys. This was way long. I sold it in 2015, so like, kind of doesn't really count. Everything went up in price since then. But Easy comparisons between an S2000 and a Miata. The Miata has way more interior room.
Yeah.
Way more interior room. Like I would say the S2000 is barely has more space than his Cappuccino, which is like,
that's saying a lot.
you're like in a like a like a rocket car. Like anyone who owns an S2000 and is like slightly larger will know this. The trunk space is more. The
Which
car
I thought
is
was kind of surprising.
Yeah,
yeah.
The fuel economy is better. Obviously, it doesn't make as much power, but this is the way I like to equate it. And we were just talking about this. We looked up S2000 prices just now, and to get an AP2, we saw an AP2 at a dealership with 133,000 miles on it. Basically, very similar to the one I sold back in 2015. And they want 29 for it, 28,899.
Yeah,
was the price.
Makes no difference.
And it had like a couple mods, but it wasn't like anything crazy.
Yeah.
But if you take that and you factor
well, again, and
tax,
I bought this for 4.
Yeah. So we did the math really quickly, and we realized that if we took this car, put the manual swap that's on it, did wheels, suspension, an authentic Rocket Bunny kit, painted it, interior, done. We would still have over $10,000 left for just the motor.
Yeah.
So while I love S2000s,
they're sick.
Roadster to Roadster comparison, you can make a Miata really mean for 30 grand.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's really up to your preference, but that's kind of where I sit with it. While I would love to get another S2000, I would also rather have a fully done up Miata for less money, in my opinion.
Yeah, which is a very good point. And actually, speaking of which, availability on these is also better.
Yes.
Because, you know, tons of these were made. A lot of them have been crashed and parted and so forth and so on throughout the years. But a lot of them were made, so you have a much better chance of finding, you know, this than you do pretty much anything else, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, these were used a lot less than like S13s, S14s, that type of stuff for drifting.
Yeah.
So they weren't as...
They were slept on for a really long time.
They were slept on. And so because of that, they weren't as smashed to bits, you know?
Yeah.
So because of that...
Like this one is basically virgin. Like it was bone stock when we got it.
The only thing that was on it was the head unit. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So availability is definitely there with these. You might not necessarily like the pricing, but availability is there. So if you want one, you can find one, and if you have the money, you can purchase one.
And keep in mind when it comes to availability and pricing, it's a simple equation. We're going to get into a more detailed video about this in the future, but price is determined by supply and demand.
Yeah.
So usually as supply goes down, demand does increase.
Depending on what it is.
You know, it's dynamic. But keep in mind that while they are available now and they are reasonably priced, even though they're way more expensive than they were a few years ago, they're going to go up in price a lot.
They're going to keep going.
Like this 350Z that I need to finish at some point.
We'll get there.
It's doubled in value in the last 2 years.
Since you've owned it.
Yeah.
You know?
Basically, I bought this from him last July.
Yeah.
It's been almost like it's over a year in my ownership, and it's worth twice as much. Yeah. And you know, you're gonna have people who complain about prices and stuff like that, but the reality is that it's supply and demand. So
and also you gotta pay to play.
You gotta pay to play.
Yeah.
So let us know what you guys thought. Those were the 5 reasons why we think you should get a Miata. Obviously, everyone's gonna have different reasons. Not everyone's gonna agree.
Yeah.
If you have any other reasons you think, or you have a Miata, or you're thinking about it, let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys thought of the video in the comments down below. And if you liked the video, please make sure to like, subscribe, ring notification bell, and we'll see you in the next one.
And we appreciate you guys.